There is a $3 bottle of white liquid at every auto parts store on the planet right now that removes every trace of oxidation, fading, and chalky death from your car's paint and restores it to the exact gloss, depth, and color it had the day it rolled off the factory assembly line. No $500 professional detail appointment. No $3,000 full-body no orbital buffer that costs $200 and sits in your garage collecting dust after one use. Just a few tablespoons of a thick white compound rubbed onto the surface by hand that chemically and mechanically strips away the dead, oxidized paint layer and exposes the perfectly preserved original color hiding directly underneath it. Color that has been sitting there for years waiting to be uncovered. Color that the sun never touched. Color that looks identical to the day your car was painted because it is the day your car was painted. Sealed underneath a microscopically thin layer of damaged surface that this $3 liquid removes in 60 seconds. The Society of Automotive Engineers has published research on paint, oxidation, and restoration compounds for over 70 years. The United States Navy has used the exact same polishing chemistry to maintain exterior paint on warships exposed to the most brutal salt, sun, and wind conditions on Earth. NASA applies identical abrasive polishing compounds to maintain optical clarity and surface integrity on spacecraft components exposed to extreme UV radiation in orbit. This is not a bottle of magic liquid from an infomercial. The science of abrasive paint restoration has existed since the first automobile rolled out of a factory with a painted surface in the early 1900s. The chemistry has been refined across a century of development by petroleum engineers, polymer scientists, and surface chemistry specialists. The military has relied on this exact technology to maintain multi-billion-dollar fleet assets for over 80 years. Then, a $45 billion auto detailing and body shop industry realized something catastrophic. They realized that a $3 bottle of rubbing compound in the hands of any car owner could eliminate the single most common and most profitable service they offer. They did not stop using this compound because it failed. Every professional detailer on Earth uses the exact same chemistry behind their shop doors every single day. They did not replace it because technology found something better. Nothing better exists. No technology has ever been developed that restores oxidized paint more effectively than the abrasive polishing compound that has been doing it since 1920. They stopped telling you about it because a $3 bottle and 45 minutes of your Saturday eliminates a $300 to $500 detail appointment that the average car owner books 2 to 4 times per year. And anything that the customer can do better, faster, and cheaper in their own driveway must be erased from their awareness entirely. This is the story of the oldest, most proven paint restoration method in automotive history, and the massive industry that needs your car to look terrible so you will either pay them to fix it or trade it in for a new one. Travel back with me to 1908, Highland Park, Michigan. The Ford Motor Company assembly plant, Henry Ford's Model T, rolls off the first moving assembly line in automotive history. The car is painted black, not by choice but by necessity. The only paint that dries fast enough to keep pace with assembly line production is a Japan black enamel that air cures in hours rather than the days required by the colored lacquers available at the time. But even this durable enamel begins to oxidize within months of sun exposure. The glossy black surface dulls, it chalks, it fades to a tired gray that makes a new car look old within its first year. Early car owners are furious. They paid a small fortune for a machine that looks like it belongs in a junkyard after one summer. The solution arrives not from the automotive industry, but from the furniture polishing trade. Fine furniture makers had been using abrasive pastes to restore dulled lacquer finishes for over a century. A thick paste containing finely ground abrasive particles suspended in an oily carrier. Rubbed across the surface by hand, the paste removes the microscopically thin dead layer of oxidized finish and reveals the fresh, glossy material underneath. By 1920, automotive-specific rubbing compounds appear on the market. Companies like DuPont and 3M develop formulations optimized for the harder automotive paints emerging from the rapidly evolving car industry. The products work. They work extraordinarily well. A car owner with a tin of rubbing compound and a cotton rag can restore a faded, chalky car surface to showroom condition in an afternoon. This was common knowledge among car owners for the first 50 years of the automotive age. Your grandfather knew, your great-grandfather knew. Every man and woman who owned a car between 1920 and 1970 knew that a tin of rubbing compound and an hour of elbow grease was the standard annual maintenance that kept a car looking new. Every gas station sold rubbing compound, every hardware store stocked it, every car owner's manual recommended it. It was as fundamental to car ownership as checking the oil. Then something changed, not in the chemistry, in the business model. In the 1970s and 1980s, the professional auto detailing industry exploded in America. What had been a simple DIY maintenance task performed by every car owner in their driveway was systematically repositioned as a professional service requiring specialized equipment, professional training, and premium pricing. The industry did not change the chemistry. The same rubbing compound that your grandfather bought for $2 at a gas station is the same rubbing compound that a professional detailer buys for $15 in bulk and charges you $300 to apply. The only thing that changed was the narrative, and that narrative was worth billions. Now move to the military, the United States Navy, the 1940s through the present day. The Navy operates the largest fleet of painted metal surfaces exposed to outdoor conditions in the world. Aircraft carriers, destroyers, cruisers, submarines, support vessels, every one of them painted, every one of them exposed to salt spray, tropical sun, Arctic wind, and the most punishing marine environment on Earth. Maintaining paint on naval vessels is a massive logistical and financial challenge. Repainting a single aircraft carrier costs tens of millions of dollars and requires months of dry dock time. The Navy cannot afford to repaint every time the surface oxidizes, so they use polishing compounds, the same fundamental abrasive chemistry that restores your car's paint. Naval maintenance crews apply rubbing and polishing compounds to oxidized painted surfaces to remove the degraded layer and restore the protective finish underneath. The practice is documented in Navy maintenance technical manuals that have been published and updated continuously since the Second World War. The Navy spends millions annually on polishing compounds because the alternative, repainting, costs billions. The chemistry saves the military more money per year than most civilian companies generate in revenue. If abrasive polishing compound is trusted to maintain a $13 billion aircraft carrier, it can handle your Honda. Now cross to the aerospace industry. NASA and commercial aerospace manufacturers use polishing compounds to maintain painted and coated surfaces on aircraft and spacecraft. The exterior surfaces of commercial airliners are maintained using the same abrasive polishing principles between full repaint cycles. Boeing and Airbus both publish maintenance procedures that include compound polishing for paint surface restoration. The aerospace industry understands what every chemist and every surface scientist has understood for a century. Oxidized paint is not destroyed paint. It is paint with a thin layer of UV-damaged material on the surface. Remove that layer, and the original paint is right there underneath, perfectly preserved. Factory color, factory gloss, waiting to be uncovered. Every major industry that operates painted assets in outdoor conditions uses polishing compounds to maintain them. The military, the airlines, the shipping industry, the rail industry, every one of them uses a $3 chemistry to avoid million-dollar repainting costs. The only industry that tells you polishing compound does not work is the industry that charges you $300 to use it on your behalf, or $3,000 to skip it entirely and respray your car. The modern science behind this $3 liquid is where the story becomes absolutely devastating to the auto industry. The product is automotive rubbing compound, a thick, paste-like or liquid suspension of microscopic abrasive particles in a carrier base that typically includes petroleum distillates, oils, and conditioning agents. Here's what happens at the molecular level when your car's paint oxidizes and why this $3 compound reverses it completely. Modern automotive paint is a multi-layer system. At the bottom is the bare metal body panel. Above that is an electrocoat primer applied at the factory for corrosion protection. Above that is a color base coat that contains the pigment giving your car its color. And above that is a clear coat, a transparent layer of urethane or acrylic polymer that protects the color coat from UV radiation, chemical exposure, and mechanical damage. The clear coat is the sacrificial shield. It absorbs the punishment so the color coat does not have to UV. Radiation from the sun hits the clear coat, it begins breaking the polymer chains at the molecular level. This process is called photooxidation. Oxygen molecules bond to the broken chain ends, forming oxidized polymer fragments that are weaker, more brittle, and less transparent than the original material. Over months and years of UV exposure, this oxidized layer builds up on the surface of the clear coat. It becomes hazy. It scatters light instead of transmitting it cleanly. The car's color appears dull, faded, and chalky because you are looking at the color coat through a layer of damaged, hazy clear coat. Here is the critical fact that changes everything. Photooxidation only affects the outermost surface of the clear coat. UV radiation penetrates only a few microns into the clear coat before its energy is fully absorbed. The damaged layer is typically 2 to 10 microns thick. Your clear coat is 40 to 80 microns thick total. The oxidized layer that makes your car look dead represents less than 10 to 15% of your total clear coat thickness. 90% of your clear coat is perfectly intact, perfectly clear, and perfectly glossy directly underneath that thin shell of damaged material. Your car does not have bad paint. Your car has good paint wearing a thin mask of dead surface material. Remove the mask and the good paint is right there. Rubbing compound removes the mask. The abrasive particles in rubbing compound are typically aluminum oxide, silicon carbide, or kaolin clay. These particles are microscopically small, measured in microns, and graded to extremely precise and uniform size distributions. When you rub the compound across the oxidized paint surface, these particles mechanically shear away the damaged oxidized layer. They cut through the hazy, chalky, dead material and remove it from the surface entirely. As the dead layer is removed, fresh, undamaged clear coat is exposed underneath. The result is immediate and dramatic. A single pass of rubbing compound across a heavily oxidized panel will show a visible transformation. Dull becomes glossy, faded becomes deep, chalky becomes smooth. The original color reappears as though time has been reversed. The compound is not adding anything to the surface. It is not coating, filling, or hiding the damage. It is physically removing the damaged layer and revealing the pristine material underneath. The restoration is permanent because the oxidized material has been eliminated, not covered. After compounding, a follow-up with a finer polishing compound smooths the microscratches left by the cutting compound and brings the surface to a high-gloss mirror finish. The two-step process, compound, then polish, is the exact same procedure used by every professional detailer in the world. Their secret is not their machine. It is not their training. It is not their premium products. Their secret is a $3 bottle of compound and a $2 bottle of polish that you can buy from the same shelf they buy from. A study published in the journal Progress in Organic Coatings analyzed the depth of UV degradation in automotive clear coats and confirmed that oxidation damage is confined to the outermost 5 to 15 microns of the coating surface. The researchers documented that mechanical removal of this damaged layer through abrasive polishing fully restores optical clarity and gloss to the remaining clear coat system. Published Science, peer-reviewed, confirming that your faded car paint is not ruined. It is wearing a 10-micron costume of dead surface material that costs $3 to remove. So if rubbing compound is the same chemistry used by the Navy, the aerospace industry, every professional detailer, and every automotive paint engineer for over 100 years, and it costs $3, why does the auto industry push you toward $300 detail appointments, $3,000 resprays, and $40,000 replacement vehicles instead of handing you a $3 bottle and a rag? Because the gap between what they know and what you know is worth $45 billion a year. The global auto detailing market generates over $14 billion in annual revenue. The auto body repair and repaint market generates over $31 billion. Combined, that is $45 billion per year, built on top of paint damage that a $3 compound reverses in an afternoon. Here is how the revenue model works against you at every level. Level 1. The detailing industry. The average professional detail costs $150 to $500 depending on the service level. The core service in almost every detail package is paint correction, meaning compound and polish. The material cost for the compound and polish used on a single vehicle is approximately $1 to $3 worth of product from a bulk container. The detailer applies the same compound you can buy at any store for $3, uses a machine that speeds up the process but does not change the chemistry, and charges you 50 to 150 times the material cost for the privilege. A car owner who discovers that $3 in compound and 45 minutes of handwork produces the same result never books. Another detail, Appointment: 1 customer lost. $600 to $2,000 per year in recurring revenue eliminated. Across millions of car owners, that represents billions in industry revenue that depends on you never picking up that bottle. Level 2, the body shop industry. When a car's paint is heavily oxidized, many body shops will quote a full respray rather than attempting compound restoration. A full respray on a standard sedan costs $1,500 to $5,000 depending on the shop, the paint quality, and the labor market. In the majority of cases, the paint underneath the oxidation is perfectly intact. A full respray is not restoring the car. It is painting over paint that only needed its surface cleaned. It is the automotive equivalent of demolishing a house because the windows are dirty, but a respray generates $3,000 in revenue. A compound restoration generates $3 in material cost and cannot be billed at the same rate. The shop has no financial incentive to tell you that your paint is fine underneath the oxidation. Level 3, the dealership and manufacturer. This is where the revenue model becomes truly predatory. A car with faded oxidized paint looks old. It looks neglected. It looks like it needs to be replaced. And that perception is worth more to the auto industry than any repair revenue. A car owner who looks at their oxidized car and feels embarrassed is a car owner who starts shopping for a new vehicle. A $40,000 new car sale generates far more profit than any detail or repair service ever could. The entire automotive sales ecosystem benefits from your car looking terrible. Dealerships do not offer compound restoration because restored paint kills trade-in urgency. A customer who discovers that $3 restores their car to showroom condition keeps driving it for another 5 years instead of trading it in. Every year that you keep your current car is a year the dealer does not sell you a new one. And every bottle of rubbing compound that you buy represents $40,000 in lost sales opportunity for the dealership. You were never supposed to know that faded paint is fixable. You were supposed to feel that faded paint means your car is finished, and that feeling is worth billions to the industry that sells replacements. If you have made it this far, you already understand more about automotive paint science than 99% of car owners, who will trade in a perfectly good vehicle this year because nobody told them that the paint underneath the oxidation is still showroom perfect. Subscribe and share this video with someone who deserves to know, before they sign a $40,000 loan on a car they did not need because a $3 bottle could have saved the one they already own. Stay with me now because the most important part of this video is next. Now, I need to be completely honest with you here. Rubbing compound does not fix every paint problem. If your car's clear coat has peeled off entirely, exposing the color coat or primer underneath, compound cannot restore what is no longer there. Peeling clear coat requires professional respraying of the affected panels. If the color coat itself has faded due to clear coat failure and prolonged UV exposure to the pigment layer, compound may improve the appearance but cannot fully restore color that has been chemically bleached by years of unprotected sun exposure. Deep scratches that penetrate through the clear coat into the color coat or primer cannot be fully removed by compound alone. These require touch-up paint or professional repair. And compounding does remove a thin layer of clear coat each time it is performed. Aggressive over-compounding on thin or already damaged clear coat can cut through the remaining clear coat and create irreversible damage. Use moderate pressure, work in small sections. Check your progress frequently, and never compound the same area excessively. But here's what rubbing compound absolutely does, and does exceptionally well. It removes the oxidized surface layer that causes 90% of all paint dullness, fading, and chalky appearance on vehicles with intact clear coat systems. It restores factory-level gloss, color depth, and surface smoothness. It works on every color and every paint type. It costs $3. It requires no professional equipment. It can be applied entirely by hand, and the results are immediate, dramatic, and permanent because the damaged material is physically removed, not temporarily concealed. For the vast majority of cars that look faded and tired, rubbing compound is not just the cheapest fix. It is the only fix that actually addresses the cause of the problem instead of painting over it. Let me state these numbers one final time so they burn permanently into your memory. A $3 bottle of rubbing compound mechanically removes the oxidized surface layer of automotive paint and exposes the factory fresh color and gloss hiding directly underneath. The oxidation layer is typically 5 to 15 microns thick. Your total clear coat is 4280 microns. 90% of your paint is perfectly intact beneath a thin mask of sun damage that costs $3 to remove. A professional detail appointment costs $150 to $500 and uses the same $3 compound from the same supplier. A full-body respray costs $1,500 to $5,000 and paints over perfectly good paint that only needed its surface cleaned. A new car costs $40,000 and replaces a vehicle whose only visible flaw was a 10-micron layer of oxidation that could have been removed in an afternoon. The Navy uses this chemistry to maintain aircraft carriers worth $13 billion. The aerospace industry uses it on commercial aircraft carrying hundreds of passengers. NASA uses it on spacecraft. Every professional detailer on Earth uses it behind closed shop doors every day. And a $45 billion auto industry needs you to never pick up a $3 bottle and a rag, because the moment you see what is hiding underneath your faded paint, you will never pay them to show you again. This knowledge never disappeared from the planet. It was buried under professional detailing marketing that repositioned a $3 DIY task as a $500 professional service. Buried under body shop quotes that paint over perfectly good paint because restoration generates $3 in revenue and respraying generates $3,000. Buried under a car sales culture that needs your current vehicle to look terrible so you feel compelled to finance a replacement you do not need. Your grandfather knew. He kept a tin of rubbing compound in his garage, and his car looked showroom fresh every Sunday. Every gas station in America sold compound alongside motor oil as basic car maintenance through the 1960s. The Navy has known since World War II. They maintained the largest painted fleet on Earth with the same chemistry. NASA knows, Boeing knows, Airbus knows, every aerospace maintenance crew in the world knows, every professional detailer knows. They buy the same $3 compound in bulk and charge you 100 times the material cost to apply it. And the dealership salesman who looked at your faded car and suggested you start thinking about something newer absolutely knows. There is a bottle of compound in the detail bay behind his showroom that could have restored your car in an hour. But that restoration would have cost him a $40,000 sale. But right here, right now, watching this video, you just learned the same paint restoration science that keeps aircraft carriers combat-ready and commercial airliners presentable. And it costs less than a gallon of gas. Your car is not dying. It is wearing a 10-micron mask that costs $3 to remove. Underneath that mask is the same factory paint that made you fall in love with that car the day you bought it. And today, sitting right here, you just got it back. If this video opened something for you, subscribe and share it with every car owner you know who has ever looked at their faded paint and felt the itch to trade in. Every single share preserves what the auto industry spent decades keeping out of your driveway and inside their detail bays. The next video drops soon. What is inside weighs even heavier.